Hello and welcome back to the WTF Sunderland preview podcast ahead of the biggest game of the season so far as we welcome Coventry City for a crucial second leg playoff at a sold-out Stadium Light on Tuesday. We take a 2-1 lead into the second leg thanks to goals from Wilson Isidore and Eliza Mayenda at the Jimmy Hill Arena, but it's only half-time and another mammoth 90 minutes awaits. We normally invite Wee Ross when it comes to the Coventry previews, but I wanted a bit of a change, so I roped in one of my old pals, Joy, from the NiiLamptey Podcast to preview the game. We spoke on your podcast on whatever day it was I was in my shed. But how are you, mate? You all right?
Well, that's a tremendously more professional intro than I gave. It's very impressive. I hope your fans realise the standard of broadcasting they're getting.
I mean,
that was one take. That was one take as well, straight out, like proper, really professional.
Bro,
I'm absolutely fine. I'd have been finer had Friday have gone differently, but them's the breaks, aren't they?
Yeah, I think we've both been I know we hate each other, but we've both been on the end of shite results and got used to it and just ploughed on, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it on Friday. I don't think either of us are afflicted with the same thing that a lot of people are, which is the belief that God has chosen us to be successful and that anything that goes against that laughs very directly into his face. And so, the game on Friday could have gone a different way, but it didn't. And so life moves on, and you just hope that it goes all right the next time. And if it doesn't, then I'll kill myself.
So I will ask you about Friday. Look, it's first leg. I'm really we said it so often, like halftime in the review show. But I thought we played pretty well. I thought what we did was smart. I think a lot of the comments from Coventry fans are a bit wild and probably soaked in a little bit of, oh shit, they'd done us and didn't expect that. But what did you make of the Coventry performance? Because obviously, as a Sunderland fan, I looked at our performance, not the Coventry one.
So in terms of the Coventry performance, I thought it was in some ways predictable, in some ways disappointing, and in some ways absolutely fine. So to break that preposterously pretentious answer down a little bit is I thought we responded better to you letting us have the ball better than we had in previous games. And we were hampered by the fact that we had Brandon Thomas-Asante playing up front for the first time in about 4 or 5 months because he'd come off the bench against Middlesbrough after being injured for a while, did well for 20 minutes, and probably there was justification to bring him in for Sims, who's been awful for weeks and weeks and weeks. But I do think it meant that we were out of rhythm as to how to get the ball in the box for him to score. And consequently, is going down the sides made an awful lot of sense because that's where the space was, and that Sakamoto did very, very well, like getting into space down the side. But that we just, time and time again, and I know that our goal came from here, but you were disorganised because you weren't quite ready for the fact that you'd scored. I think it was just literally a symptom of the fact that it come so quickly after that and you were a bit disorientated. But that we just put ball into the box and ball into the box and ball into the box. And you could just see that Ballard specifically and your keeper Patterson? Yeah. Nathan Patterson?
No, Anthony
Patterson.
Nathan's the Everton right back.
There you go.
I'd have him. Not in goal, but I'd have him.
Yeah, but they ate up everything like all night of that. And what was to start off with, I don't mind it because we have done. I think we've scored something like. Well, at one point we'd scored 10 more headed goals in the Championship than the next nearest team, right? So you get where it comes in, and we had Sims up front. What was disappointing was that even as we got 70, 80 minutes, they just kept doing it, despite the fact that, weirdly, I wonder whether the fact that we scored off one, that I think was unrepresentative, very much a kind of a stop clock is right twice a day. I just wonder whether that then meant that they were happy to keep doing it. I just thought we made things very, very, very predictable and played right into your hands. But I think that's my answer about the Cov performance. And I know it's not a question that you've asked. The bigger thing for me, to counterbalance what a lot of Cov fans are saying, I'm just terribly impressed with what you lot came and did. You just came, you read the situation perfectly, set up exactly like I'd worried you'd set up, and you executed it absolutely bang on. It was for a team that has been pretty wank for ages, and a team that I associate very much with arrogance and hubris. You came really humbly and went, I reckon they'll probably make a mistake and we'll pick it off when they do. And you did it twice and you walked home very happy, presumably. I mean, I'm guessing you were very happy on the way back, right?
Well, I did that thing where I was like, I'm not going to drink, and then was like getting the shots in by the end of the night. Like the shot girls that come round, they were just like, and I was like 5 minutes, and I'll consider it. And then she came back like hovering over all of our shoulders, like it's been 5 minutes and you've won the game. You want the shots? And I was like, oh,
Where did you go?
watched it in a pub called Ark in Glasgow. About 30 or so went down. It was quite annoying because we we celebrated quite wildly when the first one went in, and for some reason that turned the entirety of the pub that wasn't Sunderland fans into Coventry fans about a minute later, which was a bit annoying.
See, you sent me the Monzo thing from Cov train station. I thought you were at the game.
No. Do you know why I didn't go?
No, of course, but it went round, didn't it? Because everyone was like, haha, look at these twats thinking they've done something already.
Yeah. And yet we're the ones getting the stick at the minute, like about like thinking we've won it and all that kind of stuff. Look, it was funny, we talked about the preview show that we did with you, and I came on to guest the other way around, and we talked about like how do we set up, and I was like, I can't really tell because I don't really know what we're doing at the minute, to be honest. And I said, I have a feeling he might sit back, but I hope he doesn't. God, I'm pleased he did because it worked. And you said, I feel like if you do that, that's going to work. So I know we've spoken sort of privately since the game, and I know that you've just discussed it there in terms of how impressed you were with what we did. Do you think Sunderland are going to do that again? And if we do you think that's going to kind of roll out in exactly the same way? Can we afford to sit back at home? Because it's a question, isn't it?
Yeah, so we talked about this on Friday, and we were sort of laughing about the kind of the immutable tragedy of your club. Is that really like the do you know what it makes me think of is kind of, I don't know how well versed you are in Simpsons lore. Everything for me is referenced back to Simpsons. I think of Sunderland as being that bit of the Simpsons where the comet they blow up the bridge and then everyone is just driving off. And it's a testament to their never say die, never think things through attitude towards life. Is that if you aren't Springfield, then you will sit back, even if your fans get on your back, because you just need to. We could get one, and it's not a disaster for you because one will likely make a mistake and it's fine. But there is a bit of me that just thinks the vision of Sunderland that I've got in my head is I just sort of think that there's going to be too much Sunderlandness about you you won't be able to resist the idea of being like, actually, I tell you what we will do, let's win this one 4-0 instead. Just really go for it. Just leave way too much space and think, if only we'd have sat back, we'd have been all right. In reality, I'm joking. I think if you were smart enough, if Labrie or whoever it is was smart enough to come and defend at our place, I think you'll be smart enough to go, that worked. Let's just not do anything stupid this time round, because we haven't got much else in the locker. It's not like we can all of a sudden do something crazy different. So I imagine you'll sit back, but it may well be that you might score early, and then you might not have to. You might go 1-0 up and think, fuck it, actually let's have this then, and then you might kill us. But we'll have to wait and see. It's as unpredictable, I would say, as it was in the first leg. But if you've got any sense, you'd do exactly the same thing because you really did nail it.
Why is it that Coventry struggle with that? I mean, because you see, you'll know this more, and I know we discussed it previously about how your away form, like the Luton and the Plymouth games, two teams that got relegated and are pretty crap, based on their league position, beat Coventry quite comfortably and relatively convincingly when it came to Plymouth. But then you went and beat Borough, who are, look, I don't think they're a playoff team, but they're a decent enough team, and they could have been if they'd won that day. And I think at home you could see you had like a lot of the ball against us on Friday without actually doing anything with it. I think that was kind of something we wanted you to do, but...
Well, I think we had 75% possession, and I don't think you get 75% possession unless the other team wants you to have it.
Yeah, I mean, I seen a few comments saying that we weren't all that good and that Coventry had all the ball, so therefore they were the better team. And if they do that again, you'll win, and you might do, you never know. But to me, it was within the plan, which makes you nervous as a Sunderland fan, because sitting back does make you nervous. But are Coventry a different side away from home because your results indicate it, or do you think it just doesn't matter because it's the playoffs? It just goes out the window, that kind of stuff.
No, I think it's so the problem away from home is it's not like they get scared of getting on the bus and stuff like that. It's the same as what we're saying here. If we take the jokes out of it, if you can call them jokes, is it will be difficult if you hit 50 minutes, 60 minutes on Tuesday, and we are on top. Any not just your fans, any set of fans is going to start getting a bit pissed off because it's going to feel like you're arbitrarily inviting, especially thick fans that don't really get what's going on or whatever. They're going to think, well, if you keep inviting them on and they score, the momentum will be behind them, forgetting that the opposite happened last time that you scored and then we scored straight. Like people think that there's these sort of God defines narratives in football, these things that they're like truisms that 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline, this sort of nonsense that's not actually borne out in reality. So I think it could get nervy, but in what happens most of the time in away games is we go places in fifth and we go to a team in 14th and they go, well, let's sit right back. And the two major deficiencies that we've got is we lack a really good striker. So if you look at our XG performance, and I know people don't like XG, but I don't really care, is we underperform our season-long XG really badly, just a lack of finishing power. And we are horrendously prone to making individual errors, as you saw very, very specifically. So we had Brad Collins in goal, who is like a hologram for the last 6-7 weeks or whatever. But Ben Wilson didn't do terribly well with especially the second. But ironically, some of that is about anyway. But the Milan, obviously, the poor bastard who's been incredible for the last 2 years. The poor sod. The first mistake he's made for us is an absolute howler like that. So that's why we're losing away from home. If anyone is prepared to sit back against us, there's a really high likelihood that if they can keep a clean sheet, we'll give you a goal. And until we start fixing that, we've struggled for about 2 or 3 years now against teams that sit back. If you give us the space to go into, we can dominate and do something with it because we've got nice technical players. But even against Middlesbrough when we won 2-0, we probably, I know it sounds silly, that scoreline of that game should have probably been 5-3. But we just wasted opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. But because we had the space to get so many, we got 2 over the line.
How would you approach the match from a Coventry perspective? Because part of me wants us to go in with exactly the same mindset because it works so well, and because I've heard 2 Coventry fans tell me exactly the same thing now, that you struggle against if you sit back. But there's also 46,000 Sunderland fans there, and I'm like, oh, just have a go and get an early goal. But how did Coventry set up?
So the big thing for me is it's about the way that the ball is delivered into the box. We've got Milan, who is absurdly fast playing at right back, and given how deep you'll sit, if you sit as deep as I think you will do, Sakamoto is terrific, and their link-up play is fabulous. I just want to see us hitting your byline and pulling balls back. So rather than floating them into the air, as brilliant as Ballard was as about picking stuff out of the air, I'd like to see his feet get tangled up. But it means that we're going to have to be brave enough to flood the box. It means that we're going to have to, realistically, as good a player as Ben Sheaf is, we probably need someone who isn't fucked as an attacking proposition, which he is. Again, lovely defensive work on Friday, but at any time in your half, he just ruined attack after attack after attack. I don't know who that is, probably Jamie Allen, but he's not much better. But I think we probably need to be in a position where we're going to commit 2 central midfielders into being in a position where they will back up a central striker and be aiming to get to the byline, pull a ball back and flood the box with enough numbers that you're just trying to get a touch on it and hope that your centre-backs just tangle themselves up. I don't think that'll... that's not a recipe for success. It's just more effective than keep sticking floaty crosses in.
I mean, I thought Ballard was terrific, right? Because he did his job. But
Yeah.
there was a part of me that went, why did they keep aiming the ball in the box? Because Ballard is just eating all of this up.
But a near post, so it was more often than not coming from the right hand side with Sakamoto, and more often than not was coming to the near post for Ballard. So I think he's on the left for you, right? Of the 2, yeah. So it's him every single time. You're right, yeah. We didn't mix it up at all, really.
The one decent ball you put in was the first time it went slightly over Ballard's head, and then obviously Rodoni gets in and puts it in the back of the net. The first real bit of quality I actually thought Coventry produced in the entire game, and it mixed with us being a bit unprepared with the goal and all the emotion that comes
Well,
with it and stuff like that.
but I'd forgotten about this until I just watched the highlights before coming back on. So very, very early in the game, right in front of us, because we were in the stand where it was in front of, obviously, is we had that chance where it was a very kind of sort of ball bouncing around all over the place. And that's us in a nutshell for me. That's a sort of chance that I'd like to create more often, but you need the players around it to make it that it wasn't so easy for you to deal with. That was carnage with that ball bouncing around in the way that it was. And at the time, I thought, how on earth did we not score? But when I watched it back, is because you'd got a load of numbers in the box and we hadn't got really anybody in the box. So as presentable as a chance as that could have been, it didn't end up being because we were outnumbered so heavily. Part of the answer is you've got to be brave, and especially in this game. The good thing about this for us is that on Friday, we've got to attack, but we know you're going to counter attack, and so we've got to worry about you picking us off. I do think this time round, you kind of go, if we get picked off, we're not anymore, we're losing anyway. So we might as well fucking have a go for it, because the thing will be, if we do score first, that's where there's a problem for you, because now you've got to chuck your game plan out the window. But I still sort of think I don't think we've got the firepower for it.
With the game itself, I think before the game, and maybe this is our form and the slight tendency for me to be pessimistic with Sunderland, but I'm much more optimistic with life. But I'm quite pessimistic with Sunderland because of experience, and we were in bad form. I felt like Coventry were the favourites going in on Friday, and even I think because you've won the first leg away from home, you naturally are going to be the favourites. That's what the bookies say anyway, no matter where your head swings. The bookies think Sunderland will get through. Is that a positive for Coventry? Because I kind of felt like, and look, you always hear it worse, especially when it's a big game. It happened with Pompey, happened with Sheffield. Or the CBS is going to be an amazing atmosphere. This is going to be brilliant. Everyone's going to be up for it. And you hear that quite a bit, and you kind of start going, I think they think they're favourites as well. And you probably were. Where, to be honest, it's probably changed a bit because of the result, and now we've got the home game. Does that benefit Coventry in any way, or will you fold? Or are you more likely to fold under that pressure?
Uh, so I'm gonna go. Last last week we talked about how the past doesn't influence the future,
Yeah.
but that we in the last two times that we've got to finals, is playoff finals specifically, is we drew. Well, we admittedly they were draws, but that we had to go and win the away. We played at home first, had to go and win the away leg to go through. So, and we did it both times. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility. The atmosphere I thought on Friday was beyond what I expected it to be. So we talked about the fact that I thought we would provide a good atmosphere, but it was brilliant. And even at the end of the game, people were staying back to sing Milan Van Avik's name, to sort of like to even just hammer on, mate. This ain't. I know it's a mistake, but ain't you?
I was as well, to be fair. I quite liked singing his name as well.
Yeah, well, it's a nice sounding name. And he's just he's a lovely guy. Like, he's front and center of all of it. He's a very charismatic, outgoing. It's just it was like the worst possible person that it could have happened to.
Mm.
And you could see that he looked like he was going to burst into tears as soon as it happened. But the the what you're alluding to, not even alluded to, but what you're asking about is there is a bit of this, which is like the players do seem a bit fucked off by everything, not in a bad way, in quite a let's go there and fucking write this. Do you know what I mean? It's actually, I don't think they'll give a fuck about a cauldron atmosphere or whatever you're. I think they're going there quite happy to be underdogs and everything. Actually, I think it will. I think it will be a benefit to them. I think we were hoping to go and sort of intimidate yous a little bit, not by being aggressive or whatever, but with the atmosphere to sort of show what a big club we've become. Big club, by the way, temporary, transient status, obviously, but I think that. Yeah, the reverse will happen on the other leg. I think that all of the noise that you'll make and everything else, assuming you do, which I think you probably will, I sort of think the players will see that as, let's go and show these that they're not fucking having this. But then I think they'll concede after about 10 minutes.
You've got, I
So
think, there'll be people here, and a few people felt like Ross, who was on the previous show, was too overconfident, and I'm sure they enjoyed the win on Friday. And look, I did as well. You I was straight in his DMs, I was straight in your DMs. Let's be honest, because that's what football's about. Fuck it, of
yeah,
course it is. But I think I do feel, and I said this before the game, before the first leg, that as a fan, you've got to kind of embrace it. I think it's kind of what you're in football for
yeah,
as a fan. Like, so if it's your profession to play the game, you should realistically be up for it. I obviously hope that our atmosphere, which I've seen a lot of times players will under, but it's not to say that it definitely will. Some players really, really revel in that. And there's a part of me that thinks, and this is like famous last words list, and I know Sunderland fans won't enjoy me saying this, but it's the first time we beat Coventry, not actually the time we beat Coventry, if you know what I mean. And
mhm.
that keeps playing on my mind and does my nut in. But look, I know what it means for Sunderland should we lose, but what does it mean for Coventry if you lose? Do you feel like you're in an okay place where if you do lose the game, you've got to lick your wounds a bit over summer, you're in a good place with Lampard and you can move forward?
Yeah, the kind of the Lampard factor and how behind him and behind the club, generally speaking, people are. And as well, it's a different thing for us. We had the polar opposite to you. So we were
Mm.
2 points above the relegation zone in November. A lot of people are considering this to be way ahead of schedule for what should have happened this season. Get dumped out this playoffs. The narrative over the summer will be, which is going to be heavy for the owner, is, oh, we're only 3 or 4 players away from maybe getting top two, which is wrong. We're a lot further away from that, in my opinion, at least. But I I think it will be less about being, mortified, disappointed by a terrible season because we finished fifth and got knocked out in the semis, but the everybody is going to be thinking, let's have a real go at next season, and I don't think people will accept a bad start to next season in the way that the last few years have been. So I think everyone will be disappointed because you'd be disappointed, but I think that largely it will be, it's a precursor to our inevitable success next season.
You always do that though, don't you? I remember like it was weird. Every time we got beat in the playoffs, it's pissed me off. And I wasn't happy we got beat off Luton, but I remember being like, okay, this was ahead of schedule, this one. This is probably took us a bit further forward than I expected. And also we had Lyndon Gooch at centre half, who's a right winger. So I was a little bit like, okay, maybe the injuries did catch up and maybe Luton are just quite decent. Turns out they ain't. But anyway, on that night,
Well, they
they
were at
were.
the time. They were at the time, weren't they? There was no
Yeah.
shame in losing to that team. They were very, very good
No,
that season. Yeah.
no, and they were very different to us as well at that point, which was my main concern with Coventry and the physicality and stuff. And I talked on yours, the preview show about how concerned I was about Haji Wright. Naturally, I would be. He scored a hat trick against us in the game before the playoffs. When I went online, outside of Coventry fans giving Sunderland fans stick for apparently us being crap, and then Joe Bellingham apparently not being that good either,
Yeah.
I've bookmarked more things than I've ever bookmarked in my life this week. Haji Wright is the one that's getting the most heat. I
Yeah.
mean, look, he didn't score. Like, I get that. But I wouldn't say there was any part of me where I watched it and went, oh, he's shite him. I thought, no, he's got something about him. I still see it. But some of the comments from Coventry fans are like having his life. Like, what's gone wrong there? I thought he was good.
Nothing's gone wrong. He's again.
Is it just
I'm really
Twitter?
interested in. I I sort of don't. I'm going to give you a wanker answer. I'll just keep it nice and simple. That's what Haji Wright is. You can't predict what Haji Wright is going to do next game, but his goal scoring record, pretty much everywhere he's been, but especially at Coventry, is unimpeachable. It's like better than Jokeres's, better than Matt Godden's, who everyone worships the ground that he walks on and everything. And Godden did a lot of his goal scoring in League One, and Jokeres is a lunatic. I mean, Jokeres is it's hard to talk about how brilliant he was for us. He was far better than Wright is, but pure numbers, Wright's numbers for us are absolutely, you can't argue with them. And as well, scored against United, hat trick against Hughes, scored the winner against Wolves. Like, he's a guy that just turns up and does it right. But if you're expecting him to play well for 90 minutes, you're looking at the wrong guy. This is not what he does. He doesn't look like he's ever played football before, and I don't mean that as a crazy criticism. He's just a freak. He's just a guy that you can't really go, oh, he was crap that game. You'd be like, he's crap even when he's good, he's crap like most of the time. He's just he's an anomaly. He's just a freak. You've just got to trust him to do what he does, because every so often you're like, he's having a crap game, and then he'll score and you win, and you're kind of like, oh, has he played well? Like, what? I don't understand what's happened. But he's got a good instinct. He just doesn't. It's that Moneyball thing. You wouldn't sign him if you were a scout because you'd be like, oh, he's a freak. But if you looked at the data behind it over a long enough period of time, you'd be like, you got to stop like looking at the guy and look at the facts, if that makes sense. So I didn't think he played well at all against Hughes, but that I would still start him. I'd probably start him through the middle on Tuesday because as underwhelming as he was, it's just as likely, in the same way as throwing a dice and rolling a six, it's only as likely to roll a six next time round as it is to roll any other number. He could score 5 on Tuesday. People will be like, he's a god. I'll be like, he's not. He's neither a god nor a very naughty boy. He's just had you right. You just have to, you're going to get what you're going to get, whether he's not trying and he's not really trying. It's just randomizer.
Do you see him making any changes? Because I've seen there was the Sims factor plays on me a little bit, and I was kind of like, don't bring him on. Not because I really fear Ellis Sims. I think he's a good finisher, Simsy. I think, look, I've seen players with better first touches, shall we say. I think he's a bit of a calamity when it comes with that. I couldn't think of a good enough analogy to kind of sum up how bad his first touch was. He's an out-and-out finisher. He's a big boy with a big afro that makes people think he's going to be a big target man. He's not. He's just a man that, if he's in the right spot at the right time, will probably finish it. And if his movement was slightly better, he could probably make it in the Premier League as it is. The thing he's good at is finishing when he's randomly found in the right spot. But Brandon Thomas-Asante didn't exactly, it seems anyway, like for various reasons, endear himself to the Coventry faithful in terms of wanting him to play. It looks like Simsy hasn't done it recently either for you. So do you make changes? Because you've got to play either one of them or you've got to change the shape a bit.
Big question, and it will depend on his fitness, but the only likely change, it'll either be the same team or this one specific thing will happen. So we brought on Ephraim Mason-Clark, who I thought did fine, but he's been injured for a little bit. And I think Lampard sees him as probably the first choice on the left. And so if he's fit enough to start, or even if he can be bandaged up sufficiently to convince Lampard he can start him, then I think it'll be he starts on the left and right goes inside. If I had to guess the team now, that would be my guess, would be that it will start with Mason-Clark on the left and right up front. Because I just think, having watched Sims be as bad as he has been for as long as he has been, it takes a lot for Lampard to drop someone. He doesn't like doing it. He sort of likes instilling players with faith, which I agree with. I think is a nice, good thing. I think it works more often than it doesn't. But then after a spell, I think once he's given up, then he might have sort of given up. Not forever, but I'd be very surprised if he drops BTA, Brandon Thomas-Asante, for Sims, having just dropped Sims for Brandon. I just don't see that happening, really. I think Lampard thinks about the impact of those sorts of things too much to do that way around. So it'll either be right on the left and BTA through the middle again. Fitness aside, it'll be EMC on the left and Hadji right through the middle. We love a 3-name player, obviously. People talk about in football the big developments being things like VAR and semi-automated offsides or whatever. But actually, the biggest development in football that people don't talk about is the proliferation of players that have got 3 surnames as a name. Johnson, Clark, Harris is really the apex example. And someone like Ephraim Mason-Clark is, he's a Cameron Borthwick Jackson in the making.
We have one with one name. We've gone the opposite way. Like Madonna, Job. It's just Job.
Yeah. And by the way, so we were talking about this earlier about people not admitting their mistakes. I was admittedly, it's not a mistake. It was more just a kind of a thought that we'd sort of kicked about the other day. I was saying that I wonder whether some of the wiliness of Sheaf, Grimes in the midfield might be problematic for Bellingham. And I was asking you how good Bellingham actually was. I thought he was very good the other night. I thought he was very good in a kind of a very understated way. And we were talking about the possible problem that our physicality could cause, but his height, I thought was massive. And that sounds like damning him with faint praise. You've still got to be in the right place and everything. But I thought let's call it a nicer thing. His maturity, I thought, was absolutely huge in a massive game like that. And I thought he did really, really well. Um, I've done that in a cadence that suggests I've got another point, but I actually haven't.
To be honest, you're the only person that said that. I looked at the because it's funny you look at comments when you've just beat a team. Of course it is, and a lot of the comments were, "Oh, I don't think Bellingham's Premier League. I don't think he's this, that, and the other." And one of the comments which made me laugh the most. I'm pleased you've said it because one of the comments was, "Oh, I thought he was completely anonymous until that tackle at the end, which stopped that like Haji Wright scoring a goal. So he was completely anonymous. Anonymous, sorry, jeez,
Apart from the one goal.
apart from the like match-winning moment right at the end where he like literally took the ball off your striker's foot. So I thought, well, all right, okay, fair enough. So he's as good as we think he is, and from the outside looking in.
So again, he's the sort of player, as with every player, it's very rare that you. I think it's very rare that you ever see a player once and think, my word. The only two that I can really, really, really remember ever was I saw 45 minutes of Kyle Walker playing for QPR against us, where I was like, I don't know what this is going on here, but this guy has got like a teleport machine at right back. And I saw Gareth Bale playing for Southampton at left back. And I was like, I don't know what sort of monster bred you, but you shouldn't look like that at 17, and was technically terrifically gifted. So Bellingham is not that level of, not to say that he won't get to that level. I don't think the performance that I saw on Tuesday suggested, wow, we're looking at like a potential superstar in the making here. But considering that the narrative is either, this is what we talked about the other day, he's God in the making, or he's shit and it's only because of his name. Actually, what we saw, I thought, was a very mature, very, very, very good performance from a very young midfielder in a game where he probably should, on probability, he got bossed out of it, but did his job really, really magnificently. So, not magnificently, that's too much, but they did it very, very, very well. So, yeah, I can, and as well, this week they were saying Borussia Dortmund are looking at paying 25 million quid for him, and everyone's like laughing and whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't think they've watched one game, or they've gone, oh, it's his brother, so we'll do it. They've got scouts all over the place. They must have watched him for ages and gone, yeah, he's as good as his brother. He could be as good as his brother, or even if he's not, we'll keep him and he'll be really good. Like, it's just daft to think that it's all done on like narrative. It's not done on narrative. They're doing it on all sorts of different metrics. He's obviously good. It's just that I'd never really seen it. This is the first time I can really say that I've watched a full game properly and gone, yeah, all right, fair play. You are good then. Is he going to play for England? I don't fucking know, but it's one game, isn't it? He looks good though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive fanboy of him and his brother, to be honest. But
Yeah, but
for separate reasons. But
the other thing, and I know this is daft, right? And I know that fucking again, I'm sound like I'm contradicting myself talking about because I was moaning about saying big man status for people that ain't actually. But I tell you what, don't know how fucking hurt him that he's fucking huge. Like that's a very tall, very composed midfielder. Like I love Roy Keane. And I think that
so
still
do
I'd
I.
want Roy Keane to be my guy in my all-time Premier League midfielder above anyone else, right? But it didn't hurt Patrick Vieira being pretty much as good and about 4 inches tall.
It was beneficial, and I think like that's the thing with Joe. When he first came, he was the same height. He's 6'2", I think, but he wasn't quite filled
He's
out.
got to be
And
taller than 6'2".
he's only 6'2", apparently.
No,
But
I'm not having that. He can't be.
apparently he's only 6'2". Like, and I think Jude is 6 foot because the whole thing
I
was
can
he's
buy
two
that,
inches
yeah.
taller. I mean, I'm going to Google it while I ask him this question anyway, in case
Yeah.
I'm wrong,
No,
because
you talk. I'll Google it. It'll be easier. Go on.
I've got like the wonder of the internet, which tells me exactly what it is. But I wanted to ask you if there's any other players, because this is my favorite part of the show, when fans just tell us how great our players can be, rather than just going on Twitter and everyone telling us how much better their players are than Joe Bellingham and Chris Rigg. But was there any other players that stood out for you? Because I thought for me, my ender looked like the player that worried your team every time he got the ball.
So without wanting to sound like I'm just fucking jumping on it, right? So two things. One, I'm the worst person to ask for that because I don't I don't know whether it's my eyesight or whatever else, but I just don't. And as well as I'm usually steaming and whatever, so I often think I'll have to have a look to see. So there's no Wi-Fi in our stadium. I'll have to see who number 31 is or whatever. It's on the fucking board in front of me most of the time. I can never quite pin it back yet. But the one specific player where I was like, you do look especially in a team that was looking to counter attack against us, is Mayenda's intelligence. I thought was absolutely, it didn't help that he was quick. Sorry, it didn't hurt that he was quick, but actually, it was the bending of the runs and it was the knowing where to be at the right time and everything. He did look for a kid. I looked him up afterwards. He's 20, and
Just turned,
he's
yeah.
yeah, for a kid is the movement on the guy in a way that presumably you've not really been playing a lot before. Is I had to think a fucking I've got to give it to the guy. I also thought for a guy that we talked about, I texted you as soon as he scored and said 2 in 13. We'd said about Isidore getting 1 in 12. I've seen some people moan about Wilson's save for Isidore's goal. That's a fucking class finish, that is.
Great
It's
finish.
absolute. That is the finish of a guy that's just like, I am going to score goals consistently wherever I go for the next 15 years. That's a. He just, like, beautiful power and precision on it. Yeah, I thought that was lovely. But yeah, my ender particularly. But like I said, Ballard stood out, but I think he might just be a centre back that was given the game that he wanted to play. I thought the keeper did really well with everything. He did really for a player whose name I didn't even know. The keeper dealt with everything really, really. Again, it's really easy to just spill one of them sometimes. He dealt with
He
everything
normally
really.
does actually. Pato
Does it?
actually, like, he's had a bit of stick this season, Pato, but and he's had stick from me, which is not always kind of my style, I suppose. But he was really good after that. We laughed about how we spoke about this, but he looked like, and I don't mean it in the way it sounds, looked like he was going to come, then wasn't going to come, then come again, and then he went back, and I went, oh no, he's having one of them games, which he can sometimes have because he's a bit indecisive on crosses. But I thought on Friday night he collected after that everything and
Yeah.
came for stuff and called for stuff, which might have been helped by the fact that Dan Bollard went, well, if you shout for it, I can still head it, and I will just head everything that comes at me.
So that's what I was going to say. The one thing that I'm really impressed by, even outside of the way that we played into your hands with sticking the ball into the box in the way that we did, I also thought that what was really clear was the communication between the three of them was elite. That it was just the way that they knew each other's positions and that the way that you could see that they were talking to it. I've got an awful seat where I sit, hate it, but it's wherever all of my group sits. But it's basically right behind the goal, and it means that for at least one half you can see in explicit detail what's going on in the box, and the three of them were constantly talking to each other. They knew explicitly where they were. They did that really, really, really well in a way that I haven't seen since we had Luke McNally, Carl McFadzean, Callum Doyle, and they looked like they were one person occupying three different bodies at times because they were spot on. But those three, what's it? They were very impressive. But like I say, Meander is, even when you didn't find him, is you kept seeing him drift about and being like, "Oh fuck you, fuck off."
I mean, it's funny that chance he scored. He had a chance quite similar against Blackburn on Boxing Day. And he played for us last season. He went along to Hibs and played 2 games. And I think I probably just hold my hands up and thought I didn't think much of him. And he started the season because we didn't sign a striker. And Wilson came in about a month later, I think, or started about a month later. Got 2 goals against Sheffield, 2 really good goals against Sheffield in the first home game of the season. Then started adding assists and hitting teams on the break. And you thought, he's got something here. But then I personally didn't think he dipped, but he missed a very similar chance against Blackburn on Boxing Day. Clean through on goal, 96th minute, 7,000 in the way, and you're thinking just round the keeper or just hit it. But it shows his progression for me that when he got that ball, when that Milan kid played a wonderful assist to him, if he wants to do that again, he can do. 2 really good assists for him in that game. When he put him clean through on goal, I had 100% confidence that he was putting that in the back of the net.
I was, yeah, it was, yeah, it was. He was as decisive as Ben Wilson was about the fact that he was like, "Well, I don't care. I'm coming for this."
It wasn't. I'm not criticizing Ben Wilson here. Good Sunderland boy, good Sunderland fan. But
Yeah.
he seemed to do a little bit of a wobbly knee slash. I don't know quite what I'm doing here when he did that little
Yeah. So
jig.
the context of it is, so he's come in he's probably at 90% fitness, so you can't really blame the injury, right?
Mm.
But that we've been playing Brad Collins, who is, I feel so sorry for Brad Collins. Brad Collins is clearly a good keeper for somebody else, but he's got Coventry City brain rot. He's like, it's just his head is fell like a million miles away from his shoulders in a Coventry shirt, and that the main thing, even outside of his inability to stop any shot that comes anywhere towards him, is his decisiveness is fucked. So he's not like that goal that Luton scored. You could argue that the defender on the line got his legs caught up and he could have, but actually it's about the fact that he just doesn't deal with the cross at all. And that Wilson, since he's come in, it's like he's gone, I'm going to be the most decisive keeper. And you're like, actually, we could do with someone that was just a bit in the middle. so I don't need you to run a million miles out of your box to get beat by one touch from Mayenda who then rolls it in. I just don't. But that, like, just I know that's a bit rambly. But you know what I mean? Is that Wilson's been like, well, he's not decisive, so I'm gonna get everything. He'd be like, well, just chill, mate. It's fine.
Just stand back.
Yeah, but I can see, but I also don't blame him. Like, I can see all it is just enthusiasm to go, I want to keep me space and I want to do everything right and everything. It's hard. What's really hard is that our first choice keeper is outstanding. And so watching him recover from his ACL while we watch two.
Yeah, he's dead, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be a long, long way away from being back. So don't worry about that. But we bought him in the summer. He started shakily. They played Wilson and Collins at different points. They brought Dovin back in, and he's class, absolutely class. When he's come back in, he's been absolutely brilliant. Then when he did his ACL, that was where we went on the run. Was literally when he came back in. You're like, right, okay.
R.I.P.
Organise the defence well. Stop making so many mistakes. Made a load of saves that we weren't making before, and then he went. So that's that.
Final question, which I hate asking at this point.
Don't ask him then.
I know I have to though. It's just routine, isn't it? Not predictions. I have to. It's just predictions. But
no,
I don't
do predictions. So
yeah, I don't want to do one either because I don't feel. I
it's
don't want to
pointless,
say
isn't it?
this. I'm nervous now. I wasn't before. Wasn't before Friday. I went, I'll be alright. Like, what's the worst case scenario? But now I'm actually nervous because I'm like, I've spent money. Like I'm going and I'm gonna get home into Glasgow at like 2 in the morning or 3 if we go this extra time. Like.
The problem is we've now had a few conversations on here and on like text and whatever. So the idea that we talk about predictions, having spent fucking ages saying to each other, it's all going to depend on this or this or this. What's the point? Like we don't know what's going to happen yet. It's not like it's like if we were playing Watford now and we were at home and Watford had got fuck all on, I'd say, yeah, I think we'll probably beat them. Because you just be like, yeah, I don't think they've got. Whereas I don't know how you'll set up. I don't know how we'll set up. I don't know whose mentality is going to be right. I don't know fucking anything. So it could be anything, couldn't it? So I tell you what, I will predict. I predict that at the end of the day, football will be the real winner.
It's always the winner. Oh, Joe, you're good, mate. Good catch up.
Oh man.